Dina Geiszler is our speaker this morning, and she moved to the Olympic Peninsula sight unseen from Minnesota about 6 years ago. She searched for sunny, beautiful places in Washington and found sunny Sequim and then Port Angeles. After driving here in her giant RV motorhome, she found work at Olycap and moved into her perma home about 4 years ago. With over 25 years in the social services, it was a great fit, and Port Angeles, Clallam County benefits from her expertise and knowledge. Dina first worked with Early Childhood Services, is now the Employment and Training Director. She is motivated by helping others to help themselves, helping people discover and own their skills and talents, teaching life balance skills, and helping prepare and find employment has been her passion for decades. Dina's favorite quote is, "The true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit," by Nelson Henderson. Please welcome Dina Geiszler and her talk on Olycap and how it fits into our world of COVID at this point.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Kathy, for inviting me. Now I have a PowerPoint. Can I share my screen? I think I can, yeah. I am going to kind of rush through some of this PowerPoint. There's a lot of information in it. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to rush through some of it because there's a lot of information. As I was putting this together, we didn't have a PowerPoint for Olycap, which is also known as Olympic Community Action Programs. And we have a lot of programs. So I want to be sure that you get information from exactly what all we do as well. So for the history of Olycap, it began as Clallam Jefferson Community Action Council in 1966. They did a needs assessment, and that needs assessment was done by people of poverty. And they showed that they needed food, shelter, education, and job training was what they were looking for. And then in 2000, we changed our name to Olympic Community Action Programs, or Olycap. We currently have 153 staff that work throughout Clallam and Jefferson County, and Olycap is a nonprofit C3 organization, and you can view our latest needs assessment on our website. And Olycap's mission is to help people build resilient communities by providing equitable access to solutions and organizations. And our vision is resilient communities with equitable access for all. And then I have our values listed as well in this slide. If you want any more information, I can always share this with you, or you can check out our website. We have our board of directors are made up of a variety of people, including elected officials in both Clallam and Jefferson County, low-income community members, and other community members that are a part of our council. We have two members who are actual either current or former clients as well. For our financial, we operate about 50 programs. We utilize 130 different funding sources. In 2020, our revenues are approximately 10 million. And you could also see our most recent audit again on our website. So I'm going to kind of quickly go into some of our programs so you understand what all we do. We have an adult care division, which has home care services, and we have the most experienced and long-term group of caregivers on the peninsula. They work with the clients and their families to decide a good match, and then they can provide with a variety of in-home assistance with people. And they are located both in Clallam and Jefferson County. And they have been doing excellent through COVID. They have done all the precautions, and these are great support services for a lot of the people that they serve who might have already elsewise been isolated. And the goal of this program is to keep people in their homes for as long as possible. We also, in our adult care, have the Encore Adult Care Services Center. And this serves older adults with functional disabilities. They include daily physical and cognitive exercise, music experiences, and a lot of stimulating activity. And due to COVID right now, these sessions are being offered virtually. It's directed by board certified therapist Jim Coulter, and it's located at 301 East Lopez. Of course, like I said, right now they're being operated virtually. And Jim also takes interns. So if you know of anyone who's interested in being an intern, he would just go onto our website and you can check that out. Now the home fund, for what a lot of people know us for, is the home fund, which is really exciting. It helps with basic needs for low-income households. It assists with things like rent, utilities, energy, prescription, gas, public transportation, just a variety of needs depending on what that client needs. And it's designed to give an individual or family through a crisis. This is our 32nd year of donations that have been received through our generous community through the Peninsula Daily News Home Fund. And it serves both Clallam and Jefferson County. And this graph shows how this has grown. And this year we had our biggest spike ever, which was great. In 2020, we received donations of $300,932, which far surpassed our previous high of 271,000. In 2020, so far, in 2020, we served a total of 724 services. The average amount is about $144.60, which were provided to 448 different households in our community. And the home fund is ongoing. So this is always growing, and we get calls every day. And you can see how the money was dispersed. The majority went to rental assistance, and then followed by car repair, energy assistance, public transportation, et cetera. So there's a lot of help that goes out to our community. Throughout this presentation, I wanted to share some of the stories of Home Fund because I think that really helps. And so this is Craig Andrews and his wife, Tara. And he had been a long-term counselor and a social worker, and he was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. And his wife, Tara, had facing colon cancer, and they needed a mechanic to replace their brakes, and they were eligible for the home fund. And so we were able to restore them safe transportation. It's one way that we have helped the community. Rachel Anderson and her husband were struggling to make ends meet, and her kids are in Head Start. And she's also an active parent volunteer. And they received 3 grants through home funds. They were just $25 each, but they meant so much to this couple. They helped them with diapers, laundry supplies, and hygiene products. And I just want to give a shout out to Rachel Anderson. She is currently on our board. She's an amazing young woman in our community. And she has been just recently elected to be one of 30 parents to represent Head Start in the nation. And so if things open up, she'll be going to Washington, D.C. to represent Washington in our area at the Head Start conferences. And so other supportive services we have is energy assistance. Some people know us for the Light Heap, which is the low income home energy assistance program. And that helps people with energy costs. It helps people with electricity, propane, heating, oil, and wood. And we also have Clallam County Ratepayer and Pass the Buck. And in Jefferson County, we have Rainy Day Fund. And in Brennan, there's the Canal Comfort Fund. And these are all funds available to help people who are struggling with energy costs. And that is one thing through COVID, we've seen a lot of people with the decrease of income needing additional help with energy costs, with rent. So COVID has affected us in many ways. Another way that it's affected us too is in our community centers. We have 3 community centers: the Tri-Area Community Center in Chimicum, the Brennan Community Center, and the Quilcene Community Center. And these had really been a hub for people to gather, because a lot of these people lived in more remote areas, and this was their outreach to socialize. And unfortunately, most of the community centers are closed, Quilcene still has their food bank open during COVID, but that was a big asset to people in those communities. Our early childhood services, they provide early childhood education to family and children 5 and younger. And it's also available for pregnant moms. And the children receive developmental screenings. They get individualized learning plans. They get at least 2 meals each day that they're there, and they have an active learning experience. And also many of the parents also volunteer at the schools. And in 2020, 98 parents provided 15,771 hours of service. And each family also receives access to medical and dental care, parent education, home visits, and help with finding needed services in the community. And we're located throughout the areas: Chimacum, Port Townsend, Sequim. Port Angeles has 3 schools plus a home-based where they go into the homes weekly to meet with the kiddos and their parents. And they had to go to virtual learning during COVID for a lot of it, which was a big learning curve for our staff as well as some of the parents. And a lot of our parents didn't have access to internet. So we used our COVID funds to help provide that to them, to assure that all our parents could be able to access those services. And our teachers have come up with some remarkable teaching tools. And I believe they just started this month, they just started doing in-person, back opening up some of the centers within restrictions. Many of our centers are located in schools. So in Port Townsend, the school district, last I heard, hadn't opened yet. So we have to wait for that to happen. In employment and training, we have a couple different programs. We've got the Foundational Community Supportive Employment for people with mental health, substance use issues, or physical issues, and are Medicaid eligible. We help them with intensive job development. We have the Work First program, which helps people who are receiving TANF, and they used to be required to have to participate, but due to COVID, that restriction was taken away, which has really affected our income abilities in that particular program. And again, we had to learn how to participate remotely. We pay wages for people who are participating in the Work First program, the clients who are participating, and place them in nonprofit work sites to gain experience. And even though they're not required to do it, we still have always had somebody working, which is exciting that parents are willing to go to work even when they don't have to go to work. They also participate in job seeking skills. And Stephanie was in employment and training, and she is also on our board right now. And she had really struggled, and she said it was okay that I shared her story. She had really struggled. She had, when she came in and to work with me, she had been in recovery for over a year, but prior to that, she had had about 7 felonies on her record. And so she thought, I'm not gonna be able to do what I want to do in life. And we really talked about how to talk about your legal issues. And I found Healthy Families, and they gave her a shot, and she did such a great job. They ended up hiring her. And she has just been spectacular. She's been an inspiration to many other parents. And she said, without this program, I would have never had this opportunity. That Healthy Families has been so good to her. She loves learning so much, and she loves working with her clients and the people that she goes with. So it's amazing to hear how these stories can really affect people who might have otherwise been written off or didn't believe in themselves. In employment and training, we also have the West End Job Lift, which is based in Forks. And we have 3 work vans that provide ride share to low-income workers. And these routes are scheduled and negotiated amongst the riders, and it's provided at no charge. We also can drop kiddos off at school or daycare. And all the drivers are volunteers. They're usually within that group that is using that van. and the vans are insured and maintained by Olycap. And this is done from a grant from the Washington State Department of Transportation. Right now, we have a van that goes from Port Angeles to Forks for the DNR. We had one that went from Forks to the Hoh Reservation to bring workers there. And we were in the process of getting one set up from Forks to Claylock, and then COVID hit. So the difficulty we've had right now is finding volunteer drivers and being able to cross tribal lines and figuring out how to work that out. So that one has definitely been, again, affected by COVID. We are also now only allowed to have 2 people in a van. And we used to have 6 people in a van. So that has really made things difficult. We also operate the Americorps Seniors, which is also known as the RSVP, which was created in 1965. And we've been running this program since 1972. We also coordinate with the North Olympic Volunteer Center as part of that too, for those volunteers that are under 55. And in 2020, even with COVID, we had 354 volunteers that dedicated 47,941 hours of community service. And the majority of it is in the food bank. And then there's senior nutrition, where they helping a lot with delivering meals. And this is a list of some of the different sites that our volunteers have worked at. A new one is that they just developed is the COVID-19 hotline. We also have the food and nutrition, the food and senior nutrition. So typically we had congregate meals that for seniors that provided the dietary guidelines as set by the federal dietary guidelines, and also provided home delivery meals for those who are unable to get out of their home. Of course, the congregate meals had to change because of COVID. And so most of those are either drive in and pick up, or some have been switched to delivery, which have increased our need for volunteers. And so we also have lunch and meals available in Port Townsend Community Center, at the Forks Community Center right now. That's again, call in and pick up. Port Angeles Senior Nutrition, they are now to go only, and the Tri-Area Senior Nutrition in Chimicum are to go only. Our Food Distribution Center warehouse manages and distributes food to food pantries throughout Clallam and Jefferson County. And we distribute over 1 million pounds of food across the peninsula annually. Now going into housing. We have shelters and warming centers in Jefferson County. We have the Jefferson County Winter Shelter. We have the Haines Street cottages, and in Sequim we have a warming center. Now, of course, everything had to undergo changes due to COVID, restrictions about how many people can be there. There's been an increased need for shelters and housing. And so we've really tried to meet this need in some different areas. We have some properties that we manage, the Northwest Passages and supportive housing in Port Townsend, and the South 7 Senior Village. We are in the process of building low-income apartments in Port Townsend. They're building, in the process of building, they call them wooden tents in Port Townsend to help with housing. So there's a lot of growth. The housing program has really, they've been hit hard with COVID, but they have gotten a lot of funding to help out with it, and they have come up with some great solutions. We also have a variety of rental assistance programs. The Crossroads Permanent Housing Program, Youth Services, and New Hope for young people, the supportive services for veterans and their family. We operate the HEAD program in Jefferson County, which is housing and essential needs for people with disabilities. the Consolidated Homeless Grant in Jefferson County for rapid rehousing, and the home fund, of course. You saw that a big chunk of our home fund goes for rental assistance and help with deposit. And then the HARPS, the Housing and Recovery through Peer Services for those who have substance use disorders. So there's just a massive amount of rental assistance programs out there. The difficulty, of course, is finding places to rent in our communities. This is another home fund story. This is Tim Uford, who was a single father, and he and his son had nowhere to sleep. He was a former iron worker who was disabled, and his shoulder was shattered like a hand grenade. And he was able to tap into the home fund to help first put his belongings into storage, and then another one to cover the application fee for his new 2-bedroom apartment, which he was able to move in prior to Christmas. We also have the weatherization program, where we go in and help people work on their home to help decrease the burden of energy costs. And this is both in Clallam and Jefferson counties. And this is performed by the analyst goes in, and they are certified by the Building Performance Institute and develops a plan. And then Olycap hires contractors to perform the work and then assures that the standards are met. And this one is going, they had some struggles with figuring out how to safely do this program during COVID, but they were able to get out and to figure things out now. So they are actively running. They do things like insulating floors and attics, sealing heating ducts, sealing drafts, installing ventilation systems, repairing or upgrading home heating systems. And it just cannot be anything really major. So some more of the COVID-19 impact. Our offices are closed and they remain closed. So we're learning how to adapt and provide remote services. Oftentimes we meet with people out in the community safely. We do a lot of things over the phone and virtually. We are in the process right now of considering how we can safely reopen our offices. Our offices are so crowded, we don't have enough space to safely maintain distance. So we are in the process of reconfiguring how that's looking, and we're looking for new buildings in both areas. And in Forks, we're in the DSHS office, which is going to be closed till at least June. We have increased our online application process and fillable forms, which is great. We are providing virtual trainings and educations to clients. We have opened social distancing centers for our homeless populations in both Port Townsend and in Port Angeles. We lost funding in some of our programs, and we gained funding in other programs. We also received CARES Act funding for the COVID relief fund. So we received $392,724 for the COVID relief fund. And this is intended to address the needs of households in Clallam and Jefferson that were directly affected by the impact of COVID. Qualifying individuals include healthcare workers. We wanted to be sure our healthcare workers could work and maintain employment. So helping out with childcare, helping out with whatever their needs might be to make it so that they can get to work. Those who have lost employment due to COVID, and those who are forced to quarantine due to recent travel. And documentation is required of all those. 74% was used for rental assistance. And this could also be mortgage assistance with this program, which is really unique. And it's especially for people who didn't qualify for other kinds of rental assistance programs. And 14% went to help towards utilities. And more utilities, we offer a lot of heating assistance, but not necessarily water or sewer bills, and garbage bills. So we could help with this program with some of those other costs. So if people need to get help, they can go online. They can they can print off an application online. They can fill out the application online. They can call and have us send one to them. They can even call and we will help them do it over the phone. And we have offices in Port Townsend, Port Angeles, and Forks, though many of us are working remotely still. And how we can look for help from the community. Well, of course, in addition to any kind of monetary donations, tablets, laptops, portable DVD players are needed for the homeless shelters guests to use to watch movies, to web browse or play games. Phone cards are needed. Phone has been really a struggle for a lot of people during COVID. They don't have minutes. They don't have data. Their kids have to be, online. Everything's done. A lot of things are done online. And so that's a big struggle for a lot of people. Gas cards to help our volunteers who are running errands, which they are doing with their own cars. And donations of goods or food to our local food bank. And our executive director is Cherish Cronmiller. She's been our director for now about a year. And so if you have any questions or want to talk to her about partnership opportunities, we've had donations of cars that we've auctioned off. We just auctioned off a Dodge van, Econoline van that somebody donated, and we got $4,000 for it on eBay. People have donated houses to us that we've sold. People have donated estates and stocks to us. So we're getting a lot of interest, and we've had a couple cars donated, which has really been interesting. Sometimes we give them directly to clients who are in need. This is a really sweet donation story. This 10-year-old Kaylee from Port Townsend single-handedly did her own fundraisers by making pot holders. And she raised $250, which was donated to the folks in the shelter. And she did it all on her own. It was just something that she thought of. Another home fund story was Terry Dumit, who was at risk of losing her transportation because she had a 20-year-old Subaru, and she takes her two kids to school and activities, and she needed new tires. Well, we were able to help her out with new tires, and she's now mobile. She holds a degree now from Western Washington University via Peninsula College, where she majored in environmental policy. And Shane Sedano needed to take her daughter, Raylan, to Tacoma for treatment for a rare infection. And when she became so ill, Sedana had a van with nearly 200,000 miles, and it needed repair. And we were able to help her through that home fund. And now Raylan is healthy, and she enjoys basketball and football and crafts with her family. And that's just one of the many ways that home fund can help and some of our impact. So with that, I'll say I'll stop sharing and see if there's any questions. I know that was a big rush through everything. Any questions?
I don't have a question. I just wanted to make a quick comment that I really enjoyed working with you. So when I worked at First Step Family Support Center, we worked together through the training and employment program. And you had placed 2 employees with First Step that I was able to work with and supervise. And it was a really great experience. And you are wonderful to work with and so supportive of those individuals who go through the program. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Carmen. Yes, it is I just enjoy the employment program so much, and to see people really start to build their self-esteem and believe in themselves again. That's great.
Dina, have there been issues with your funding sources? It's been a double-edged sword in the last year, but is it all private funding and government funding?
We have a variety of different kinds of funding that we get in. Personally, in the employment and training program, I was hugely affected. I have over a $50,000 loss and have had to tap into trying to find grants in order to cover that, because I don't want to lay off my staff. In fact, I didn't replace one of my staff who was promoted to another position. So we've had a lot, whereas housing and food, they're getting lots of money coming in. So we're kind of thinking once COVID goes through, there'll be more money coming in for employment because people will understand that now people need to get back to work. But unfortunately, people need to get back to work now, and people want to work now. So it is very frustrating to have lost so much in my employment program when there are so many people who want to participate. And I'm going to have to start saying, I'm sorry, I don't have staff to help you. It's sad.
But on the other hand, there are more monies for housing, are there not? But
Yes.
a lack of housing.
Yes, and the difficulty is there is the lack of housing. It is really exciting to see some of the options that are going with in Port Townsend that they're doing. I think there was a recent article too about the Bayside housings in the Peninsula Daily News, the little tiny houses. And we're doing, they call them wooden tent. They're more like a wooden tent that we're doing. We have some property in Port Townsend where we're putting them up, but we're also running into issues with cities designating that as an encampment, which is against city codes. And so that's the other struggle, is sometimes you want to, and we're looking at where we can do this in Clallam County too. The difficulty is matching city codes with what we can do, and yet having them close enough that people can access public service. Because if you put them outside the city and they can't get a bus to get to treatment, to get to mental health, to get to work, that is a struggle. So yeah, it's hopefully things will open up a little bit more, and we'll look at more options for housing.
Thank you.
Well, thank
Any
you
other
very much.
questions?
Go ahead. What? Did
Go
you
ahead.
have a question, Kathy?
No, I was just going to open it up for questions, and because I know we're getting close to time.
Yeah. Any other questions for Dina? Dina, I want to thank you for coming up this morning and coming on. I know it's early, and but you know, that's what we are. We're the early group, so appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Program was great, and you're doing a wonderful job. Your Olycap does wonderful, I mean, for the community. So I'm really happy to see that everything's looking up somewhat for you. So we'll see how this year goes. Okay, at that point, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. And